And now this morning, it's time for us to reveal our guest host this morning. This morning, I have the privilege of sitting in studio with a young woman in politics that actually sits on the minority bench this morning, dressed in pink, very bright and shining this morning. We have Miss Petal Benoit. Good morning. Mrs. Petal Benoit. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Shenell. Good morning, Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago. I am really delighted to be here as your co-host celebrating this special edition of International Women's Day.
Excellent. And we are happy to have you. Usually you are on
the
that
other
side,
side.
but as a guest. So this morning, we are here to offer all the support that you need, and seeing you switch roles and be co-host this morning. But even in your own capacity, you have done great things to from being a young person coming up in politics and accounting and setting new standards and breaking glass ceilings. For you, how important is it to be a part of series like this as we celebrate and embrace women in different industries?
I think it's very important because we need to show other young women, particularly those coming up, that they can achieve anything. So, there's this favorite verse that anything you put your mind to, you can achieve. And I think when they see other people excelling, that are their neighbors, their friends, persons in society and community, it motivates them to want to achieve as well.
Excellent. And this morning, we also have an amazing guest that's joining us online.
Yes, we do.
All right. And do you want to introduce our guest this morning?
Sure. So this morning we have a powerful lady joining us, and she's a powerhouse in ministry who has planted churches across the region, impacted lives through media, and she has also written several books. She is Apostle Gillian Selkridge, and I hope that I pronounced that surname correctly. So this morning we want to welcome Apostle Gillian.
Thank you, ladies, and thank you for the invitation to join you this morning, and also just welcoming everyone in Tobago. Just happy to be a daughter of the soil of Tobago, and happy to be with you.
Excellent, excellent. Now, you are no baby to this ministry thing. You have been in the game for 20 years now. Well, I mean, I would assume that your walk with Christ would have begun a lot earlier than that. But when it comes to building ministries, regionally, internationally, you have been doing this for the last 20 years. Now, when we look at the time that you would have started, that's 20 years ago, that was still the time where the philosophy that women should sit and be quiet and women should not preach and women should not lead in ministry and that men are the head. That was the philosophy during that time. So tell us about how difficult it was for you to break into ministry as a woman leader. And how has that transition been ever since, especially now that we have evolved to a totally different time?
Wow, excellent question. And I was, preparing for this session and thinking about the same question. And do you know what helped me is that prior to doing ministry, I was one of the first persons to start the government agency, the Small Business Development Company in Tobago. That's where I started off. And I had just been fresh out of UE. And, I would go to all the villages in Tobago helping to launch and to train persons and to help them find financing for their businesses, etc. I would have been there in the time of the deceased Honorable Mr. Charles. And so that really, really helped me. And then I moved to Trinidad and I headed the agency in San Fernando. And I would represent the country in St. Lucia and the OAS meetings, etc. And I feel that that would have really helped me, um, you know, to see first the needs of people. Now, you are right. I gave my heart to the Lord at age 12, and I had very great parents. My father was a pastor and elder, and I think looking at him, that helped him to train me as a speaker. Anytime I had to speak, he vetted my speeches, etc. But never ever in my wildest dreams did I think that I would be there going to the nations, going to Africa, going to the UK and speaking. I just never thought. But when God spoke to me, God spoke to my heart. I was in my office that day and he said it's time to resign from this job. And so it was so strong because it wasn't my desire. So I knew it was God. And he said, yes, it's time for you to do what I made you to do, what you were born to do. At that time, I also ran, alongside my husband, a very successful business at the Gulf City Mall. And so it wasn't that like I was looking for money. I was like, I was concerned about what was I born to do and am I doing what I was born to do? And when that call came to my heart, nothing could stop me. I couldn't be satisfied with what I had. Um, I had to respond to the call. So yes, it was the time. Yes, I myself grappled with it. Am I supposed to be preaching? Am I supposed to? But I would hear the voice saying, I have called you to do much more than this, to bring my word to the nations. And guess what? 20 years later, I wouldn't choose anything else. I am so satisfied to see lives touched, to see people change. And while my friends, people who went to school with me are retiring, I am refiring. I am so excited about what I do.
This is so awesome, Apostle. And you spoke to the fact that you were being called. And sometimes many women feel called to lead but hesitate due to societal expectations or whatever may be happening in their life at the particular time. What advice would you give to women who feel that calling but are unsure about stepping forward?
Like Mary, you're probably doing something that's rare because there are a lot of women in ministry who operate at the lay levels, all right? But you don't you it's a little more uncommon to find women who are at the helm of ministry or starting um, a movement, starting. Sometimes you think it's just a small thing you're starting, but you don't even realize that God is starting a global movement in you and through you. And like Mary, find an Elizabeth. That's the first thing I'd say. Find an Elizabeth. Uh, and what is that? Find another woman who has done it before. And sometimes we think that people don't want to help, to mentor us, and that's not true. That's not true. I make myself available to any woman or man who feels the call to do business, to do ministry, to do business also. I believe in souls and sales. All right. I say if you're a mentor who has walked that road before you, who has done it before, they help to prepare you, they help to galvanize you because you will have to be strong. The doors are not going to open easily. Sometimes you're going to kick them in. Sometimes you've got to come back and keep knocking in the face of no's. And so find that person. Secondly, develop a strong relationship with God. It cannot just be that you're a good speaker, that yes, you could move the crowds. No, this is not, I think the era for doing motivational speaking and being able to help people. I mean, that will only take you to a certain level. But people have real problems, ladies, and especially if you're a politician, you understand that people, women and men, have real problems, problems dealing with the generations in their homes, children, real problems in their marriages, in their relationships. People have um, sometimes life shattering experiences. And they are coming to us because they need sometimes an intervention that could only be spiritual. I face situations with persons that they aren't even psychologists who know exactly what to tell you to do. I counsel psychologists from time to time, all right? Because at some point in time, people realize that life is spiritual, and therefore there are some things that will only be dealt with successfully with the spiritual dimension. And so you have to have a strong, unmoving relationship with God. And everybody can have that. Every single person can have it, men and women. And so when you're called to do that, you need that. Because
Excellent.
sometimes your very own self, sometimes yourself, you start saying, probably I'm not enough. Probably I didn't hear it well. Probably um this is not for me, because you're going to be tested. You're going to be tested. You're going to be tested sometimes by the people closest to you, by the people who said that they will follow you. All right? You're going to have some Judas in your life, man, but that's okay.
Right.
That's okay. You learn out of my unswerving faith in God. I have a God that I can go to and I can open my heart to, and I can listen to the Holy Spirit and get directions. And before long, you realize I take a sleep, I get up tomorrow, and I'm ready to go again. And the answers come as I press into God. And then just keep believing. I'm just one for being optimistic. I really believe that with God, nothing is impossible. Nothing. I don't care if it is cancer. I don't care if it is rebellion that you're dealing with. It really doesn't matter. It is nothing for God. And out of that place of relationship with Him, and that strong belief that this thing is going to work for my good and for the good of others, you keep moving and you keep doing well. And yeah.
Excellent. And I mean, marriage in itself, I have heard, not from experience, is already difficult as is. And it seems that marriages in the church, and specifically in ministry among pastors, apostles, bishops, tend to be under fire. How do you manage having to be a strong leader while being a quote unquote submissive wife and having a successful marriage?
Great. So the first powerful question. Wow. The first thing that I want to say to the person who is going to take any position of leadership, whether nationally or locally, once as a woman, it is twice as hard for you as it is for a man. That's why any woman who makes it at the highest levels, um, there is a level of strength that you have to walk um, in order for this, for you to do this. And what do I mean? You still, being a wife is extremely demanding. A wife, just ordinarily, to keep a man happy, it's not the easiest thing. To take care of your children. So you still have to cook, very likely. You still have to be on top of the children's homework. And even when your spouse is supportive, being a woman is hard work. Um, but you still will have to meet all the needs of your congregants. And for me, I have multiple congregants in different nations. All right. And at the same time, take care of home. So what do I say to to any woman who is ambitious and thinking of going to the highest levels, or you know that you're called to operate there? Faith in God, one. Two, um, be very clear that anything that's worth having, you have to be willing to fight for, to have it and to maintain it. And fighting, I'm not talking about fighting people. I'm talking about doing what you can do, doing the best that you can do to walk with your spouse, to support your spouse in what your spouse does, to give him the respect. Make sure that you don't emasculate him. Make sure that you are doing all that you can do, and making sure that you really believe in God. Um, so you spend the time in prayer, and you spend the time in prayer for your marriage. And having done all you could do is stand after that. But I want to speak to that woman. I keep shifting. I want to speak to that woman who has done all that, and still the marriage may not have stood. You may not have been able to have a successful marriage. Still keep your focus going. Keep your head high. Keep trusting God, because a marriage is dependent on two persons. And every marriage that fails is not necessarily the fault of both persons. It takes two to tango. It takes two to remain married. So you still do everything you can. You know what you're supposed to do. Submit to that man. Support that man. I give God praise today for my husband, is Fahrenheit, the gospel artist. He's also a powerful preacher and minister. I thank God for him. I thank God for our marriage. I bless God.
Excellent. Well, we want to thank you so much this morning.
So, Apostle, we thank you for sharing with us. Your journey is truly inspiring. And, you know, your wisdom is something that we can all learn from. So we thank you for sharing your journey with us, and may you continue to touch lives and inspire many.
Excellent.
Thank you, ladies. And I just want to release the blessing of God on you, on your families, and all the women who are listening to us this morning. I want you to please know that our world is changing before our very eyes in unprecedented ways. The demands that are being made now on our world, or on us as people, we need the help of God, but we will make it because God has seen every civilization. And I just want to encourage us. I want to help to empower you and to say, yes, you can make it. God will give you everything you need for your generation. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. And thank you.
Excellent. Well, guys, we're going to take a quick break right here, and we're going to be back with much more conversation right after this. So see you soon.